Thank you very much, Liam and Paul, for your kind invitation to speak. It's actually something I'm not accustomed to, so you'll have to please bear with me. I have no problem in speaking about software systems and SAP, but aspects around culture and business insight are a different story. As Liam mentioned, I'm with SAP now for over 14 years, and prior to that I worked for Motorola and I spent 4 years in Germany. When Liam emailed me about the lecture, he asked me to speak about the challenges of an Irish person running a German organisation in Ireland. Are there cultural differences? And does the fact that SAP is a global organisation help or not? And I'll go into a little bit more detail in terms of global organisations later on. I would like to start by setting the scene on my own career. I graduated from Kevin Street and Trinity with a degree in electronic engineering in 1986. I know that you think the current recession is pretty bad, but I have to say I felt the one in the 80s was even worse because there were no ICT companies at all, even though we weren't in as much debt, but there were certainly not as many multinationals, and most of my colleagues had to emigrate. The government at the time, to be fair, they did have a lot of foresight with their programmes, and ANCO, which was the predecessor to FOSS, they arranged interviews for Irish graduates all over the world. So they encouraged us to go and get jobs in the US, in Germany, in Japan, places like that. So in my case, they arranged an interview for me and a friend, a college friend, with Siemens in Germany. So we travelled to Amberg, which is very near Nuremberg in Bavaria, for the interviews, and they were held in English. I had practically no German. I didn't do German for the leaving. I did Latin for the leaving cert, and as it turned out, I found Latin actually helpful from a grammar perspective in learning German. I got the job, but unfortunately the friend of mine that travelled with me didn't. So I started with 8 other German graduates on September the 20th, 1986. The next day I actually made the front cover of the local Amberger Zeitung newspaper, and there was a title there, direct from Dublin College into Gerätewerk Amberg, which is the factory. So I'm sure the locals were probably thinking, who's this guy coming over and taking all our jobs, but they were very nice. The first thing that struck me on that day was that all these guys who started with me, they were married. Like me, they were straight out of college. Some had kids, and on average they were 4 years older than me. They also couldn't believe that I was only 21 at the time as well. So just to explain, I mean, they do start school older in Germany, usually 2 years older, and they also had completed 2 years military service, so that kind of explained a little bit of the difference. They don't do military service anymore. Amberg is a beautiful, quaint Bavarian town of about 50,000 people. It was historically a trading stronghold within Germany, within Bavaria, and is very close to the Czech border. It was untouched by the war and has a lovely old Bavarian walled town atmosphere. So I started with Siemens as a quality engineer on their manufacturing lines. They manufactured PCBs, printed circuit boards, for control modules in the automation of anything. There were about 2,000 people working there, and the plant is actually still in existence, and a lot of my colleagues are still working there. The vast majority of people did not speak English. A few of my engineering co-workers, they did speak English, but colleagues on the factory floor did not, and I was on the factory floor all the time. And yes, they did have a lot of fun with me at the start because I didn't speak any German. And the one thing I realised is I have to learn German, and very, very quickly. The Bavarians are actually very like the Irish. They drink a lot, they swear a lot, and they slag each other awful lot. So I fit right in. And I was also on my own. The only English I was exposed to was the odd engineering colleague, the odd phone call home, and the Voice of America radio station, which transmitted in English at that time between 6:30 and 7, because remember that was the Cold War was still in existence. I did German classes in the evening for about 8 weeks, and then it was pure practice. The locals were great. I made the effort, they corrected me. So it's as if I was their child that they were teaching how to speak. I repeated the correction, the cycle continued. Colleagues, workers on the factory floor, everyone would correct me and help me to say the right words and in the right order. After 6 months, I was very comfortable, no doubt about it. My recommendation to anybody who wants to learn any language is, if you submerge yourself in the country and in the culture and don't speak any English, don't bring anybody with you who can speak English, then you will have no problem. 6 months, it'll be easy. I was also a little bit of a novelty. Not many people in Annenberg had ever met an Irish person before, let alone had been to Ireland. They would say to me, you must come over some evening for dinner. So, you know, being on my own and hungry, etc., I'd say, fine, I'll be over next Tuesday, etc. So that's always good to try and push it. And I mean, it really did snowball from there. You know, I took skiing lessons and met more people. And in the summer in Bavaria, every village has a church festival called a Kirchweih, and I would use the opportunity to meet as many people at these church festivals as possible. And to be fair, my colleagues were only too happy to invite me as well along to these. So I was busy every weekend. The more I integrated, the more I was welcomed, and I got to make some very good friends, and I got a very good insight into what motivates them, what annoys them, and generally how to get on with my German colleagues. It is very important, and I found it really, really important because it has enabled me now to be able to manage upwards, sidewards, downwards in my current role within SAP. Working in Germany is, naturally enough, it's a little bit different. The German language has two forms of the word you. It's du and sie. It's a bit like French with vous and tu. And du is the informal version of you, and sie is the formal version. And it's also, I found, much more formal than working in Ireland, because a lot of people would address themselves by Mr. and Mrs. O'Hare and Frau, whatever the surname was. Now, at the start, I didn't really notice this too much, because it was my first job, and I had assumed everybody throughout the world worked in this particular form or fashion. The penny kind of dropped with me at my first 6-month probationary period within Siemens. And my boss said at the very end of the probationary meeting, it went well, I was successful and passed probation, and he said, now you can address me per du, and you can call me Carl. So in other words, we were formally friends, and I always thought we were kind of friends anyway, but this, you know, obviously not. So from then on, I was much more conscious of, I guess, how I address people. And because I know the system, having lived there, I'm actually at a slight disadvantage now, because if you picture it, if, for example, a number of German colleagues who I've never met before come over to Ireland, all the Irish guys now get to call them by their first names, and they get to call the Irish guys by their first names because they don't know the system. But as soon as I introduce myself in German, etc., it's always Herr Ryan. So they're at an immediate advantage in that they're much technically closer to the German colleagues. But I have to say, this is the only time that knowing German and learning German is actually classified as being a disadvantage. The other thing I was really surprised about is that when German people actually have an argument with each other, they may actually revert to the formal Sie. So they have been speaking to each other per du for a long time, and then they go back to Sie. Now, maybe this is actually a better situation, because in the Irish situation, we just don't talk to each other. So it's... So the German system, you have a much more formal mechanism for actually staying in touch and keep on working, leading to better conflict resolution. Working in Germany was definitely an eye-opener. In Amberg, I had to clock in and clock out, nothing unusual like that, via a swipe system. It was quite flexible. You could start any time before 8 o'clock in the morning and leave after 4. But the good thing was you could leave after 2:30 on a Friday. So just in case you think the Germans are a very hard-working nation, they are between 8 and 4 and half 2. And just in case you think, well, nobody took off at half 2 on a Friday, the place empty. The car park was completely empty at half 2. And I refer to the fact that they're somewhat like the Irish from a drinking point of view. And yes, people can and do drink beer for lunch. I mean, that was also an eye-opener for me when I was there. But it's not done as much now, and especially not by the younger generation. But the thing that used to amuse me the most, and kind of kill me as well a little bit, was the custom of a crate of beer for breakfast when somebody was going on holidays. At around 9 o'clock in the morning, so morning break, they would bring in the crate of beer and creamy cakes and out onto the factory floor, and celebrate the fact that they were going on holidays. And as I did not wish to offend anybody, you had to join right in. I thought it was a great culture. But I don't know if anybody has ever had a bottle of beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can do nothing for the rest of the day, so it is kind of tough. In terms of differences in the work habits or culture, I don't see too many now at SAP. I mean, the Irish probably do work a more 9-to-5 type role, but they will stay longer when needed, as the German colleagues will do as well. When I started at SAP, I introduced the concept of flexible working that I had seen in Siemens. So people can leave now from SAP at half 2 on a Friday, if they have their work done, of course. One other difference was the reluctance, for example, by some German colleagues to accept the concept of teleworking, in other words, working from home. They do feel there is a requirement to be in the office and to see what's going on and actually be seen as well. Now, we allow employees in Ireland to work 2 days a week from home. There are, of course, eligibility criteria in there, performance, tenure. You have to be 2 years in the organisation in order to qualify. But it has been very, very successful for us. And this, remember, is in a time when IT was booming and you really needed to innovate in order to motivate your staff as well. But I did get a lot of pushback from an awful lot of German colleagues and senior colleagues. But the way I would get over that with the German colleagues is simply say to them, and it's true, in all the years that we had teleworking in SAP in Ireland, only 2 people ever left the organisation. So anyone who does it really, really values it. And once you have a kind of a statement or a piece of fact like that, then certainly the German managers were much more at ease with it. And as well as that, the job gets done. Germans are punctual, and they really don't accept the Irish being late, and they still don't accept the Irish being late. I don't either accept the Irish being late. They will tolerate it at the very start, but it's one area that I think we Irish really need to focus on. They're very family-oriented and very family-friendly. If ever I'm in Germany and meeting with the board, it's the first question that's asked is, how am I? Okay, how are the staff? And then how's your family? So they genuinely do inquire about how things are going. They do have a sense of humour. That's certainly what I have found. It's just you have to try and get them not to tell the joke in English. It's more tell it in German and I'll work it out myself, etc. Because once you start to try and take minutes to explain it, then it kind of is difficult. So when I look back at the career, the one thing that I am most happy about is the fact that I took the opportunity to learn German and get to know the way of life so well as well. And it has helped me greatly in my career. I heard a quote from a lady working in Enterprise Ireland recently. She's based in Germany, and she said, if you speak German, you build up an instantaneous trust and credibility. And she is dead right. It's up to, I guess, everyone to maintain that level of trust and build on it. But it certainly gives us a great start. I had a great start at SAP, and to be honest, I haven't looked back. It did give me a great advantage within the organisation. In contrast to Siemens, everybody speaks English in SAP, and it is the business language within SAP, and it's set at that. There are, however, senior colleagues who do like to converse in German, give out about things, discuss the strategy, whatever the case may be. So it's great to be included in these conversations. And I was able to join into the different clubs that exist, at an early stage, and was often asked my opinion about different topics. It gives me another avenue to, as well, the German language to read between the lines. Now, reading between the lines is important in any organisation, but I find it's very much so in the German organisation, because a lot of the time it's if you know news is good news, but that's not really good if you're looking for some form of feedback. So we do, of course, a performance review. So I am given feedback on my own performance. But the other thing that German companies have, I feel, is an obsession with KPIs, key process or performance indicators. And these are metrics by which we're measured. So just an example of it, and an example of why they do it as well, is that in 2005, we had about 25,000 customers worldwide SAP. So the board set the target of we want by 2010 to have 100,000 customers. And I thought to myself, there's no way we're going to, because we'd spent 30 years getting up to 25,000. So in another 5 years, get to 100,000. But what it does do, and what I learned from it, is that if you have a particular goal and you set your mind to it, then you will use many ways to achieve that goal. And what it did was it opened up the small and medium enterprise market for SAP that they had never been in before, and they went after, and that's where you increase the number of customers. And it also led to an acquisition of a company called Business Objects. Okay, they had 40,000 customers, so you're kind of buying 40,000 customers as well. But it didn't really matter. You set yourself a goal and you achieved it as well. So that was really, really important. I guess, why do I mention this? It's, well, certainly at SAP, the German colleagues, and at Siemens as well, they are very focused on metrics. Sometimes that can be too many, and added to that, we may also have a few global programs. I call them global programs in inverted commas. These are projects that are generated at corporate, and corporate believes they're very, very good ideas, and they should be rolled out in their entirety to all countries. Now, what we're good at, the Irish are good at, is deciphering what are the important elements of the project and what are the not so important elements. So we're good at finding out the common denominators and focusing on them. And that's really important if you want to be able to achieve success with the project. The culture at SAP is actually quite decentralized, and I think it's typical of German organizations as well. They will let you up to your own devices to achieve results. Of course, you have to achieve the results in accordance with the culture and passions of the organization, so success, accountability, professionalism, integrity and trust, and teamwork within the organization. But we have an awful lot of scope to do things the way that we want to do. We've freedom to fit out our buildings, for example, the furniture in the Irish way and the way that we want to do them, as long as we stay within budget and timing. And this is one of the really positive elements about working for a German company. They're very trusting people, and they trust you to perform the role that you have been trained for and, of course, that you're paid for. And as I mentioned earlier, they do like to measure everything, and they're a firm believer in effectively what gets measured gets done. It's when the trust is broken that's where problems can arise, and you will be given a second chance, but that is pretty well it after that. One of the other challenges of, I guess, managing a German organisation is managing a German organisation that's global. And I'm not really talking about just a company that has sales offices in a number of different locations, in our case 120 countries, all centrally controlled out of Waldorf. In SAP's case, I think they've gone that extra step in that they've given regions and countries full responsibility for particular products and services. This includes profit and loss responsibility, solution management, product development, everything. So it's not only necessary to get to know the Germans and their culture when managing a German company, nowadays certainly, you also have to get to know what motivates the Indian colleagues, the Chinese colleagues, the US colleagues. And this is where being Irish, I guess, comes in really, really handy, because we do have a great way of dealing with all those nationalities. By and large, you can apply the same principles to dealing with all these nationalities. The big difference is I feel they're not as impressed if you get to speak the language in the same way as certainly my German colleagues are. Up to now, I've spoken a little bit about my own personal background and how I got to know the German culture and the language. SAP is at the core an engineering company, and it prides itself on innovation. We want to remain independent, and by that I mean, offer choice for customers and not be swallowed up by other multinational organisations. You can only do that if your share price is high and the associated market capitalisation is high. And as it turns out, SAP is now the highest market value in the DAX, so it's higher than Volkswagen and Siemens as well. We're the third largest software company in the world behind Microsoft and Oracle. We're currently number 30 in the Forbes brand index, and number 31 is Audi, so that tells a little bit. We are the leaders in enterprise software. So we write software which helps companies of all sizes to run better. I have a little video that I'll show you now just in 1 second. SAP is headquartered in Waldorf, which is near Heidelberg, and Waldorf is also famous, is also the hometown of the Heidelberger Druckmaschine, so all the printing presses, one of the largest printing press manufacturers, and it's also the birthplace of the founder of the Waldorf Astoria hotels. So just now, I'd like to show you a short video, a little bit about SAP, if I can find the mouse. Oh, yeah, there it is. And then I'll come back.
SAP, the world leader in business software. SAP is a part of almost everything you do, from your alarm clock to your breakfast cereal, your computer. Even your car was most likely produced by organizations with SAP at the heart of their processes.
My name is Brian Swankeson. I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Solutions for PepsiCo.
Jennifer Saran, and I am the Corporate Treasurer of eBay.
Ryan Hannawalt. I'm the Manager of Finance for CKE Restaurants.
Bobby Joseph. I'm Senior Manager with Baker Hughes.
Head of Information and Integration Architecture at Centrica.
I'm a Global Supply Chain Manager at Steelcase.
And I run SAP.
And I run SAP.
And I run SAP.
And PepsiCo runs SAP.
In today's real-time network economy, businesses are more complex than ever.
We actually have more than 120,000 trade deals that we monitor. It's really complex. We really needed help managing that in an effective way. And we're managing trade promotions management to make sure that we can apply cash payments back to the right promotions. And it's improved our accuracy quite a bit. We have better visibility than we've ever had before.
SAP helps organizations become best-run businesses by managing their flow of information.
Our supply chain has gotten much more effective, much more efficient. We've been able to keep the product on the shelf for the customers without keeping so much inventory in the stores.
Nestle is the world's largest food service company, SAP allows their 500 facilities and 100,000 employees around the world to operate as a cohesive unit, enabling them to set realistic goals. Carter Holt Harvey uses SAP to manage New Zealand's sustainable plantation forests with a 50 to 60-year planning horizon, allowing them to make better and bolder decisions. Porsche streamlined their Leipzig plant. With SAP, they're able to produce 2 different car models on the same assembly line, saving them from having to build a brand new facility, ultimately delivering real value to consumers. Hindustan Unilever uses SAP to optimize supply chain efficiency to drive down the cost of food and goods for people all across India. With SAP Business Solutions, companies are able to focus on what it is that they do best, which leads to more innovation, growth, and success.
We really needed something more. We really needed to address not only our ability to more effectively give the customer what they're needing, but also be able to do it in a way that we can scale to a larger volume of business. I really can't think of a part of the organization, honestly, that isn't using by design in some form or fashion today.
93% of all Sharp products are produced using SAP ERP warehousing and logistics. Business Objects even helped catch bank robbers in France after they dropped canisters which Air Liquide could trace to the purchaser. Nearly 100,000 companies in over 120 countries are using SAP software right now to improve their business processes.
I think the best thing that Kraft has seen out of SAP is bringing Kraft together as a corporation.
47,000 SAP employees work in every industry across the globe so that organizations can run greener, loftier, healthier.
King Arthur Flour has been around for 220 years, and we definitely plan to be around for another 200. And SAP, we hope, will be there with us.
Helping the best run businesses run better. That's SAP.
So of course you're all going to run out now and buy SAP. Just to as well let you know that 63% of the world's GDP touches an SAP system in some form or fashion. So we know we have a very responsible position within world business as well, and it enables us hopefully to help companies run better. That's our vision. SAP began its operations in '97 and I joined SAP in 1999. The IDA had been knocking on SAP's door 10 years prior to that, so fair play to the IDA, they never give up. When I joined there were 33 employees and now we've grown to over 1,300. The success and the growth of the organisation, in my opinion, is down to a few factors. First and foremost, of course, the employees. I mean, their engineering skills, their excellence at what they do, their flexibility especially, their motivation, and the quality of work is excellent. From a flexibility point of view, we've had many situations, where a call would come on a Friday afternoon where I need 10 people in Germany in order to train up on a particular product so that we can use them around Europe or around the globe, and I need them on Monday morning. Same thing we're getting now with I need people in the US on a Monday morning as well, and they would always be there. Now I guess there is the fact, and this is another little quirk about doing business as far as I'm concerned, that the Irish don't like to say no, and to be fair, I don't know if it's the Germans are the only nation that don't like to hear the answer no, but I'm not sure, but I certainly think that they don't like it. But we always made sure that we achieved what was asked of us in the time allowed as well. If there's something that you felt particularly strong about, I mean, again, comes back to saying no, then we would try to explain it or have it clarified, and inevitably you would get more time, for example, to deliver. But one element that the Irish have not really mastered is what I call escalating. If something goes wrong, then we, the Irish, will try to find ways to make it work. We will not escalate to corporate, and this really annoys the Germans. They don't like surprises. That's the biggest thing, is that they do not like surprises. If for whatever reason we can't deliver in the time that they expected, then they need to know, and they need to know in time. They will, of course, work with us and help us, or try and help us to resolve the issues, but they just need to know. And to this day, we still don't like to escalate. It's definitely one of the biggest differences that I see. Perhaps it's because we believe it's an admission of defeat or failure, and we just don't like to do that. Going back to what made us successful, I think definitely we have the employees, we have the fact that we don't like to say no, and then there is success breeding success as well. The other thing, as well as that, I mean, from an Irish perspective, and certainly the Irish operation here, is that we offer stability, cost certainty, delivery certainty, and quality certainty. And certainty there is the word that's really, really important. I'm not going, these are all the lines of business that are active in Ireland. We have 900 people working in Dublin and 400 people working in Galway. All I'd say is that the Active Global Support one on the top right-hand side, that's the organisation that I was hired to manage. And it was on the success of the employees in that organisation that effectively it meant that it was easy for me to go and sell the remaining, to the remaining lines of business there about actually doing business in Ireland. And that's what we have effectively done. It has been the success of one organisation that has led to the other organisations being set up. Dublin is mainly geared towards what we call our large enterprises, and Galway is mainly geared towards our small and medium enterprises. Galway is our multilingual hub as well, and there are 29 nationalities with 36 languages based in Galway. So just some of the demographics. I mean, we are an organisation of 1,300 plus employees. We have 35 lines of business. A line of business is what you saw on the previous slide. We cover all technical and strategic areas. We have 36 languages, and that's a key differentiator and unique to Ireland. There is no other country that offers that level of languages within SAP. We have a very young workforce, and they're very well educated. The average age is 35, and we maintain this average age by hiring graduates. We provide all the training, so we never really suffered over the last number of years in an absence of science, technology, engineering and maths. We certainly would love to have had more people who did speak languages, and especially German, but we have to innovate in order to do that. So we have links now with 2 German universities and 2 French universities, and they come through on a kind of, you'd call it a conveyor belt. They do internships at SAP, and more than likely we actually get to keep them as well. And once we get graduates over as well, we find that they stay for an awful lot longer than we had originally anticipated. We have provided career paths for employees as well, because there's 3 reasons why an employee will leave an organisation. They're either they were the wrong people to start with, so recruitment as it was wrong. There's also the scenario where they leave their manager, so an employee will leave their manager and not necessarily the organisation, and you don't have a career path for them. We're a gender and culturally diverse organisation, and that's particularly important for SAP, is especially the gender diversity, and they're really pushing to try and make the organisation, especially in IT, to try and get more ladies into IT. And 85% of our staff speak to customers on a daily basis, and that is actually one of the other critical elements, is that we speak to customers all the time. I guess my final slide, from an SAP perspective, we are involved in what I believe is the leading edge technologies. Data is our next big thing. In an emerging middle class, there will be about 5 billion people shortly in the middle classes, all looking to try and eat into or drink into the water resource, the soil, etc. Data is doubling every 18 months, and we have 15 billion web-enabled devices. And a web-enabled device is something that you can access the internet on. That's in existence already. So SAP are now very actively going down the route of helping customers manage all that particular amount of data. So I would like to finish by, I guess, the Liam Ryan quick guide for success in doing business in Germany. A couple of points. Ensure cost certainty, delivery certainty, and quality certainty. So in other words, certainty on your key metrics. Avoid saying no, if you can. No surprises. Do not give the Germans any surprises. Understand and deliver on your goals, and don't be afraid to escalate if necessary. Use a common sense approach. They are an extremely common sense race, and that has always worked for me. Learn German, and if you can, try and spend some time in there and get to know the people as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you very welcome that I'm obliged to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Liam, yes, you are right. The difference between the Germans and the Irish are pretty much well defined by you. Yeah, now you come to a very different business. Maybe you don't, not everybody of you has a SAP system at home, but I'm quite sure you have butter at home, so it's a different business. I don't talk about me, I will talk about Kerrygold and the success story of the last 40 years, what the guys before the guys who were responsible before me did so well, so that for me it was quite easy to develop this company in the last 9 years, and I'm very happy that the two guys who signed my contract 9 years ago are in this audience. I'll listen to the speech, and I hope I don't blame them. I want to talk about where we stand at the moment in Germany. What were the market barriers 40 years ago? What are the market barriers if some of you will will enter the market today? What was the strategy over the last 40 years? Our key success factors, and what are our plans for the future? And at the very end, I will give you our definition of success. The status, we have 4 periods. The first 12 years was a very slow start, looking into the market. How do we do it? How do we get on? The next 10 years, very dynamic development. Between 85 and 95, the reunion was in that time, so a lot of additional people came to Germany. Then we had 10 years of consolidation, and since 2005, the growth has started again in Germany, and the very positive development. Our turnover at the moment in Germany, 235 million. We sell around 35,500 tons of butter. If you don't know how much this is, it's 180 million pieces of butter every year. So every German, from the small to the elder guy, consumes 2.2 pieces of butter every year. We are absolutely market leader in Germany with a market share of 15.3%. Number 2 has 6.8%, so we are doubled as big as the number 2 in the market, and we are a foreign brand in the company. We have a distribution with Aldi 84%, without Aldi 98%. Why do I say that? Aldi does not stock brands, or not many brands, so we have no chance to supply to Aldi because we only sell brands, no private label. And therefore we say, without Aldi, every store in Germany has a Kerrygold butter. With Aldi, it's 84%. Brand awareness, 95%. If you ask somebody in Germany, do you know Kerrygold? Everybody knows who is Kerrygold and what they do. If you don't mention the name Kerrygold, 35% will still know that this is a very famous butter brand. We are located in Neukirch and Flühen, very difficult for you to spell. It's in a small village with 30 million inhabitants, but right in the center of North Rhine-Westphalia. And North Rhine-Westphalia, the former heavy industry region, has 18 million consumers around our circle of, let's say, 100 and 150 kilometers. You see our 3 big cities, Hamburg, Berlin, and also Munich. This is our site. We moved to that site in 2007 from a very old site in Krefeld on a greenfield. When I saw this site the first time, it reminded me a little bit on Ireland, green meadows. So we decided to move there. It's a site of 40,000 square meters, and the building has around 7,000 square meters. We have 4 packing lines for fresh butter, 3 packing lines for tub butter. We have a packing line for frozen butter. All lines are highly automated. You see it when you look into our employees per shift. It's between 5 and 10 people running those lines. Depends what lines are running at the moment. We have 2 in the shop floor and 2 in internal logistics. So in total, capacity per shift, around 80 tons of butter which we pack, and in total, per year, around 65,000 tons. So there's room for expansion, and I can promise you that we will use this room for expansion. This was the assortment in 1973 when Kerrygold entered the German market. It was just 1 pack of butter, Irish butter. Now we have butter, various type, various sizes, 250 gram, 125, we have multipack, we have tubs, we have salted butter, unsalted butter. We have a product called Extra, which is a mixture, a blend of butter and vegetable oil. You know it here in your market, it's called Spread. We have a frying cream, which was launched in 2012 and will be relaunched this year. We made some marketing mistakes with this product, but we think that we have it right now. We have also cheese, sliced cheeses in portions, 200 gram, 2.5 kilogram. So a wide range of products. We have approximately now 65 SKUs for the retail market and around 19 SKUs for the catering market. So you can also get butter portions, unwrapped butter portions, frozen portions. You can get it as butter rosettes, but you can also get it in a football shape, right? Or in a golf ball shape on the left bottom. So whatever you like, you can get in terms of butter. And we have plans for this year. We will launch in 3 years' time a butter in a tub, but not in a tub as you might know it. This tub will turn around, so the butter will be on a lid, and you can take up the tub, and the butter is ready to serve. A new development, an innovation in the German market for Irish butter with sea salt crystals, or with herbs, or with chili, or with free pepper. So our step into new markets to develop the butter market further in our country. And we will also go into a cheese, it's called Butterkäse, butter cheese. What is closer to butter than butter cheese? Very well received from the retailers and very well received also from our consumers. What were the market barriers 40 years ago? It was the distribution, the logistics between Ireland and Germany. How do we get the butter over? It's a distance of 1,200 kilometers between Germany and Dublin, but there's a lot of water around there. So I think the most, or not the most, but one of the market barriers was how to bring the butter over to Germany. The second was the timing. How do we do it that we have the butter in the market when the customer, when the consumer needs it, and not when it is appropriate for us to deliver? What about the costings, the long way, the long transport? It's a negative impact on the comparison to German butter, for example. What about the quality? Do the Germans like the quality we have? And can we get packing facility in Germany? Because it might be easier to ship butter in bulk up to Germany and pack it in the market directly. So those were the market barriers 40 years ago. Now, if you decide tomorrow to go into Germany and to sell fast-moving consumer goods, the market barrier would be by far different. First of all, the retail segment has concentrated in Germany very significantly. You have 5 retail chains, and they control 95% of the market. So you have to talk to 5 people only to get into the market, but the 5 people, they also know that they are the barrier for you to come into the market. Price leadership is the key for the retailers. So everybody wants to be the cheapest, and there's only one who is the cheapest, that's Aldi. But all the others want to follow them. So if you don't have a brand, if you have a Me Too product, if you have a private label, you compete against the Aldi prices, and this is by far very difficult. Discounters dominate the market. 40% of the market is dominated by discounters. We have 5 main discount chains. It's Aldi, it's Lidl, it's Norma, it's Penny, and it's Netto, and they control 40% of the market. So if you want to go into the market and you don't get the discounters, your market is only 60% of Germany. Growth of private label. If you don't have a strong brand and if you are not prepared to invest into a strong brand, you have to compete against private labels. And private label is not what you might know. It's the top class, it's the lowest class what you can get in the German market. There's a big competition in the dairy sector, so don't come into the dairy sector. It's very difficult to stay there. And there's something in the market, it's called listing fees, and you might or might not know what this is. Listing fees is the highest market barrier you have in Germany to get to bring a product onto the shelf in Germany, because you have to pay forward. Not you get money when you supply something to the retailers. You have to pay the retailers that they allow you that your product is stocked on their shelf. And for every 10% distribution, you can count 100,000 euros. So if you want to achieve 70% distribution, you have to calculate 700,000 euros, and not for your whole brand, for one SKU. So you have a product, or you have 5, 6 SKUs, you want to enter the German market, the first of all, what you have to do is to put 3.5 million on the table and to convince the trade that they take it. But you have no guarantee that after 3 months you are still on the shelf, because if the product doesn't move over the counter, if you don't advertise for the product and so on, you might disappear after 3 months, after 6 months, and the money is gone. So how was the strategy for Kerrygold that they were so successful in the last 40 years? It was the color, it was the quality of the product. So the strategy was based on 3 pillars, I must say. The one pillar was the quality of the product in terms of taste, color, spreadability. We are only talking about butter at that stage. The second was the Irishness, for whatever reason, but the Germans like the Irish. I don't know why. And naturalness. And that was very important at that stage, because after the war and the growing economy, people saw a lot of smoke in Germany from the chimneys, from the heavy industry. So they felt very, very positive about naturalness, and this is what Kerrygold could offer them. Now, we still have those 3 pillars. 40 years ago, I think they didn't know that this was called brand value. Now, we call it brand value in the marketing language. And this was very important when Kerrygold, when the Irish Dairy Board entered the German market. They didn't say, hey, we are here and boom, and invest 20 million and see what's going on. No, they did it step by step. They wanted to see that there's a sustainable demand, and then they took the investment. And the demand rises, and then they invest again into the market. So low risk, step by step, no hurry, because we want to be number 1 in 40 years and not number 1 after half a year. So it was a step-by-step process, and this step-by-step process was done patient. Quality was always before quantity, and quality in terms of prices. From the very beginning, Kerrygold said, we do a premium strategy. We don't compete with private labels, we don't compete with the cheap German butter. We want to become, or we will be, the price leader in the market. It was from the very beginning a long-term process for long-term success and low financial risk. They work together with 3 partners from the very beginning. They act as a packing plant and as distributor, and there was one representative as a marketing, as a brand manager in Germany, and I'm happy that also one of the first guys working for the Irish Dairy Board in Germany is in the audience here, Tony Mackey. After that, they concentrated on one packing plant to get scale and one distribution partner. They increased their minority shareholding to a majority shareholding. They installed local management, so there was no Irish employee anymore in the German company. They took over the complete sales and distribution responsibility. Then they became a sole shareholder and moved to a new site in 2007 and moved into new businesses like cheese, like spreads, and whatever comes in the future. So step by step and no hurry. Key success factors, in my opinion, it was the market itself. Then the Germans love butter. They eat 6.4 kilograms of butter every year compared to Ireland, 2.6, or compared to the average of Europe, 4.6. So from the very beginning, it was the biggest butter market they can reach out of Ireland. And Germany has had a big population at that time, and maybe they knew that there will come the reunion in 1989, so that additional 20 million came to the market. It was a unique base product. It was not a fancy product. It was a product which everybody has in the fridge, and this product met the consumer's demand in terms of taste, color, and spreadability. The market strategy I showed you earlier, that the step-by-step process was excellent, and it was a consistent marketing strategy. The Irish Dairy Board in the last 40 years did nothing without deep consumer insights. We spent for our small company a lot of money to get understanding of the market, to get research, to know what the consumers want, to know why they want it, and to know what they would be able to spend for the product before we go into any investment. And from the very beginning, it was a pull strategy. When the Irish Dairy Board knew what the consumers want, then they invested into TV advertising to bring the consumers to the retailers, and they pull out the product from the shelf. And Ireland, of course, the Emerald Island and its people as key visual for many years was also one of the key success factors. From the very beginning, the Irish Dairy Board was a reliable partner for the retailers. They created margin for the retailers. And that's very important if you know that for German butter, retailers work on a margin of 1%, maybe 2%, sometimes, if it's very good, 3%. And for Kerrygold butter, they have a by far higher margin. We talked to the retailers about concepts, not about prices. We did not guarantee that they earn that much money, but we guaranteed them if they follow us, they will have their margin, and we will make sure that they have the volume to turn this margin also into money. And from the very beginning up to now, we don't produce in Germany any private label. And this is very seldom. Maybe there's only one other German dairy company who is doing that. And we know that Aldi has Irish butter private label in their portfolio, and we know that it would be easy for us to get that business, but then we would not talk about concepts anymore, but talk about prices anymore, and this is what we don't like. We have an interesting product portfolio: butter, cheese, and spreads, and we have since, I don't exactly know, but maybe since 20, 25 years, local management with maximum freedom, similar to SAP. The Irish people also don't like surprises, and they also like to deliver whatever you promise. And this is what we try since 40 years now, and I think they are quite satisfied because we could manage to keep the Irish out of not out of the business, but don't come into the market and tell us what the German consumers want. I think local management knows it better, and it's good to have a headquarter to control everything, but marketing is local. And the best thing, whoever was the founder of that slogan did a very good job. Kerrygold, the gold of the Emerald Island, is I think since 20 years our slogan. We tried to change this 5 years ago. We changed it for 1 year. We learned that the other slogan was not better, and I think for the next 50 years we will keep this slogan, the gold of the Emerald Island. And if you ask people in Germany, Kerrygold, at least 50% of the consumers know this slogan. It's in their mind. And all these success factors, they created this wonderful brand for butter in Germany. What is our future strategy? What do we want to do in the future? We want to transfer the butter brand to a dairy brand, because butter consumption in Germany is stagnating, and Germans became older, and old people also in Germany die sometimes, and therefore the population is declining. And in order to create growth, we have to transfer the butter brand into a dairy brand so that we are able to sell other products under this dairy brand. We will focus, or we will bring the focus not from the Emerald Island anymore, but go into sustainability, because the key USP in the future will be the meadow milk from Ireland. Grass-based production system, very carbon efficient, biodiversity, animal welfare. These are words the Germans like to have, like to hear, and they care about it. And Ireland is the only country in Europe who can provide all these things. If we If you can turn Kerrygold from a butter brand to a dairy brand made from meadow milk, this is a USP. Nobody can copy us, at least in Europe, maybe in the world. The New Zealand's or the Australian farmers do a similar thing. But in Europe, Ireland is the only country on that. And if we are successful in turning the Kerrygold butter brand into a dairy brand, we then have also the chance to go into other dairy businesses, like liquid milk, like quark, or whatsoever. And if we can do that, this is then the next success story for Kerrygold. So we have an aggressive growth strategy based on a solid foundation of a successful butter business. We have a proven success story for Kerrygold Extra. We have a highly efficient packing, marketing, and sales organization in Germany. We have an interesting innovation pipeline for the future. And last but not least, and very important and most important, the board of the Irish Dairy Board is also committed for further investments. They don't say, no, we go into emerging markets, we go to China or to Africa or whatsoever only. Of course, they will go into those markets. But they also see that there is a big potential in Germany, and they are committed for further investments. And I promised you that I will give you, at the end of my speech here, our interpretation of success. Success you can measure in growth, or in brand awareness, or in turnover, profit, volume, whatever you like. We measure success when you have your own street, as we do. Because our address is Kerrygoldstraße #1. Thank you very much.